Hey, we're live. Hey, I have got a couple of freaking rock stars in here with me. You guys have seen Glenn Morshower and I in here live. Glenn, you can now go to your Facebook page and share this, or my Facebook page rather, and share this out. And I have the one and only Mr. Bob Donnell joining us as well.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, brother. Brother.
Bob, how you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Good. I just met Tommy Baylor. Glenn called him and brought him on. So it's a great night.
Yep.
We're at Chateau Marmont, right? I mean, isn't that where we are right now?
That's right. At least in spirit, even though they basically shut it down.
Right.
No, come on.
Yeah, they basically said they had to lay off almost all of their staff.
Oh, geez. Well, this is what we're going to end up talking about tonight, isn't
it?
Yeah, we've been, and Bob's been on with us too a few times and talking about what's going on in the world right now. There's a lot of craziness happening. People are freaking out a little bit. Changing the normal.
I'm just making sure I got this shared, guys.
There's nothing ever really normal. There's always something changing. I mean, we've all been around on this planet long enough to see a million changes, and we're always on this. And even with everything that's happened in our lifetimes, we're still on the other side of it.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's my vision for this one too. We'll be on the other side of this.
Yeah.
And there'll be some casualties along the way, just like there is in every life. Every year there are casualties along the way.
Yep.
So hey,
Flo.
Hey, Flo.
Steph.
So Ken, you have two of my most absolute favorite people in the world and my bestest friends right here, all in one place.
I know, man.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
I'm honored.
But I can tell you this, that aside from all their accomplishments, which between the two of them are many, 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 nothing holds a stick to the human beings that they are. And that's why I love them.
Yeah.
That is almost word for word what I suggested that you say when I sent you that text earlier. You did a beautiful job of doing that because it sounded like it came from your heart, which I just loved it. You should be an actor, Bob.
I had a gentleman that plays on The Resident and played on Black Hawk Down and Air Force One and Moneyball once tell me that I was an actor.
Yeah, well, anytime someone says, do I look bad in this? We're all actors. We're all actors.
Oh, that's funny. So Tommy, what's your take on what's happening in the world?
What's my take?
Yeah.
Well, give you my take, and then if you want to know where it comes from, I'll be happy to share that.
Yeah, let's do both.
I think I think the world's sending us a message. I've been saying and believe me, this has nothing to do with me, but people who know me know that I tend to share what's coming up for me. I call it bubbling up. Yeah. And it's just an opinion and it's worth what you're paying for it. But it is how I feel, And when I went to live in Canada a few years ago with a dear friend, Colin Sprake, which I think most of you know, it was so different than America, and I saw a different way of living so close to home, And one night I sat down with Colin, and we talked about the subject, and I said that I'm definitely a capitalist. By the way, I don't go for parties, so I'm not. Don't get me in the Democrat. I mean, those are all your. Somebody has to label them. That's fine. You all can label them. I don't. Yeah. My field is free of all of those things. But not a but that we are feeling, living in Canada for about a year, that suddenly these words came to me: America is capitalism gone bad. That's what came to me. And I don't mean all bad, but it needs an adjustment. And then when I saw the way that the country turned politically, and yet there was a popular vote, and then there was, that's a whole other discussion. And again, I don't really get into politics, but I just felt that, something's going to happen, because this doesn't smell good. It doesn't feel good. And I'm not laying it at anybody's feet, because I'm not that smart.
Right.
But I can just tell you how I feel. So that's how I feel. So when all of this happened, I thought, oh my God, for the first time, I'm 76. For the first time in my life, something has come along that has stopped and affected every human being on this earth, and there's no one to blame.
Wow. Yeah.
So Tommy, I got a question for you. You have some very prolific friends. I mean, you had Michael Jackson for many, many years. You have Q. Was very dear friends of yours. What do you think if Michael Jackson was alive today? What do you think he would say about this? And then how do you think Q processes this information?
Well, those are great questions, Bob. But interestingly enough, as I said, I don't really talk politics too much. Yeah. And especially with my creative friends.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the politics, guys. I'm talking about what's going on.
Oh, you mean what's going on with the world?
Yeah. What's happening right now?
Sorry. I don't
want you to put words in your mouth about that. Politics.
You just re-railed me. I was derailed. Thank you. I got you, man. Well, I absolutely feel that Michael would have, I think he and I would be on the same thought process, is that there's a reason for all of this. And guess what? It's nature's way, on a microscopic way that we can't see. And yet we're all washing our hands. We have changed the way we live more than anything since the last war, or, and hundreds of thousands of people are dying more than we've lost in wars. Not all wars, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I mean, it's that level. So, these are Tommy's opinions. I would opine that Michael and I probably be saying, yeah, man, that's what I think too. Quincy is the smartest human being I've ever met in my life, and I've had the pleasure of meeting some pretty wonderful people. Yeah, this crowd included, and presidents, and I got to meet. Well, anyway, sometimes I shake my head and say, but I was raised with say, if it feels good, say yes. It tends to open a lot of doors. Yeah. But Quincy and I have never talked politics. We speak spiritually, but not in the realm of where I went with Michael. Yeah. Quincy is a political figure. whether he likes it or not. But the thing is that I honor him because he embraced it. You know, he wanted Obama to form a national arts institute. You know, I mean, we're the only country on earth, civilized country as we are, that don't have a government-sponsored art program. And Quincy wanted to be the head of that, and I think he was disappointed when, you know, Obama certainly had other things to do, but he was really hoping that he would be. In my mind, I couldn't imagine a better person to be in that position as Quincy Jones.
Wow.
Because he's got the artistic sensitivity and the vision, and yet he understands the way the world works.
Yeah.
He is friends with people across the globe. He was brought in by China and by Korea to help them structure a, you know, because for years they didn't pay royalties. I'm talking about, at least, I can only talk music royalties, okay? And I'm
really?
No, I'm not talking about record companies, because those are what are called mechanicals. But but I'm talking about performances. When something's played on the radio, we have a great, we invented it here in this country. And Quincy was asked by both the Chinese government and the Korean government to come in and help them structure a royalty system, because they realized that they had the, you know, there gets a point where the wheel's going around, and if you're the only cog that isn't group, you know, I mean, it just is like, it's not worth it.
Right.
And they weren't used to it, and it was something brand new. And but anyway, but that's the Quincy's level of influence.
Yeah. That's why I was asking. His thinking is probably different than probably ours, and also has a different view on it. So yeah, that's
exactly where Michael wasn't a part of that.
Right. Yeah.
Michael spoke from his heart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember you telling me how intellectual Quincy was and how smart he was.
Oh my God.
And that's why I figured that would be two really interesting views. One being very intellectual and one being very emotional and or heart-centered. So yeah, thank you.
I want to tell you a quick story about Quincy. When I met him, he was 40, I was 30, and we started working together, and we became brothers very quickly. And we were in the studio, and one day he comes in, and I've got my head in my hand. I'm looking down at the desk, and he walks in and he goes, "Hey man, are you okay?" And I said, "No." And he said, "What is it?" And I said, "I'm at a critical point." And he said, "Oh, or you're critical about the point you're at."
Oh,
that's genius.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Very
Quincy
cool.
Jones.
Yeah.
And let me tell you one other quick thing. He was speaking at Howard University, and when Quincy speaks, he always takes questions. And so he takes questions, and a young lady student stands up and says, "But Mr. Jones, how do I not get discouraged? This business is so hard." And Quincy looked at her and said, "My dear, if you can be discouraged, you should be discouraged." Pure truth, devoid of kindness or annoyance.
Right. Wow.
That's Quincy Jones.
You know, Tom, in the acting profession, I've told my students for years that if you can be talked out of being an actor, you wouldn't have made it in the first place.
Amen.
Amen.
I love that.
And I really believe that that's true of all professions, because if you can be talked out of it, then the ingredients it would have taken to win at it they're not in you. You're not, at least with regard to that particular area.
Right.
They may be in you, but you don't have that passion and that yearning and that target that you need in order to succeed. It would have been, there is nothing anyone could have said to talk me out of my life's path. There's nobody.
Right.
Exactly. Yep. And this is what you and I connected on, Glenn.
Yeah.
I really believe we have a lot of things in common, but I really believe that this is a core value that we both are nailed to. And I think, both Ken and Bob, that I imagine you feel this way too, is that if you believe in something, well, my dad told me early on in life, he said, son, everything between you and your goal is temporary.
Wow.
Love that.
That's
Hope somebody makes a note of that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, last night I was being interviewed on a podcast, and they asked me, what compels you to keep doing this? And I said, well, I guess that's the difference between a career and a calling. I said, I consider it a calling, and I don't think callings change based on income, based on pandemics, based on popular opinion. I think a calling is just that. It's a calling. And I think that's kind of what you guys are talking about. It's the innate being of who you are. And so people always say, well, what does that mean? I say, well, if it was taken away from me, I would cease to exist. The very nature of me would be gone. Yeah. And so I think that's, again, I agree. That's one of the reasons I think I've connected with you guys so much. Yeah.
Bob, I wonder if the difference between a career and a calling is that one comes from the inside out and the other one comes from the outside in.
Amen.
Bravo.
Well said.
Yes.
Well said.
Yes.
I'm hoping, as I sit here listening to all of this wisdom, that I eventually have something wise to add to the conversation. But I'm a great.
We'll let you know when you do, Ken. Oh God, I love being a prick.
Tommy,
what is it they used to say in the military? If I want your opinion, I'll issue you one.
Were you in the service, Glenn?
No, I wasn't, but my stepfather was, and so I'm around all of his military wisdom, and it's really what propelled me to be able to play so many military roles.
I wondered about that. I wondered about that. And by the way, I know we're on the air, but I'm not blowing smoke. I love you on The Resident, man. I love that show. It's one of my favorite shows, and your role in it is so stunning and yet full of vision. And I don't know, it's just, and I thought, that's the Glenn I know. He's not even acting. He's just showing up.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. You might want to know then that this Tuesday was our unplanned season finale, meaning that our season was truncated because of the virus. And so we wound up stopping. I got to tell you, I want to salute Fox Television and their lack of greed. They are an amazing employer, and I've known that because I worked with them for 7 years on 24. And this is not me trying to plug, my own network to do a nice thing. I believe in giving a shout out to goodness, and just whenever I spot goodness in the world, I love to give it a shout out. So listen to what these people did. We're on an 8-day shooting schedule, which is standard for all episodic television, all of your nighttime dramas. Those are shot in a period of 8 days. So the episode that's shot after the last one I did, they were on the 5th day and they pulled the plug. So they still had that day and 6, 7, and 8, 3 more days to finish. They unplugged the episode because they realized it was simply too dangerous for there to be this large gathering. And obviously we employ a lot of background actors because the ER is full of them. I've never been on a show that has so many background actors. So we've got a lot of people. In fact, the truth is our set, when you're on it, if you didn't know, let's just say someone had blindfolded you and driven you to our set and said nothing about where you were going. Once they got you into the set and took your blindfold off, you would have no sense that you're on a set. You're in
Wow.
You're in the
you are absolutely in a hospital, and it's a busy hospital. So
Wow.
they shut down production, and they still had 2 more episodes to go after the one they didn't finish, including the season finale, which I was scheduled to be in. So they did not do those shows, and instead, the last one of the season that I did is the one they're declaring to be the season finale, which will be this coming Tuesday night.
Wow.
And it's a very powerful episode, but I'll be interested to see how they edit it. This is not a spoiler because I can't talk about what you will see, but it's not a traditional finale, so it will be great to see how they piece it together, and I'm excited about it. But thank you for the compliment, buddy. It's great. You know, the star of the show,
you're the best.
Matt Zuckery, who plays, Conrad Hawkins, my son.
Such a good, I like him.
Well, Matt joined us. He joined us for my class on Monday online, just like you've come out to teach with me in person. Well, not only has Matt done that in the LA workshop, but this week he came on from LA online because we're not meeting in person now with the virus going on.
Right.
So we've moved to a Zoom format, courtesy of Ken Walls. Ken taught me how to do Zoom. And it's just interesting, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I was ready to learn about online classes. And Bob was the great facilitator that brought Ken into my life. And now I'm paying it forward and doing the same thing with Ken that Bob did for me. And that's how you wind up entering Ken's life and so forth. And I think good people, one of the greatest joys that good people have is good people, I've noticed, love to share good people with each other.
Exactly. Yeah. I love to share good news.
Yes.
It's my favorite thing.
And we love to share good people with the world. So Matt, I thought he would go on.
Truth?
He wound up staying with me just like you did. He wound up staying with us online for 7 hours this Monday.
Wow.
So I love my baby boy, Matt. I love him.
Yeah. I get the best feeling about him, Glenn.
Well,
awesome. Thank you.
It's your gut talking to you, and your gut is making an accurate read. He is the single sweetest person I have met. And do you know who he is tied with? There's a tie. The two sweetest people I've ever met. Matt Zuckery, and he's peeing, as we say in Texas, the boy's peeing in tall cotton. He's in great company because the other person is Jack Lemmon.
Oh my God, my favorite.
So I would say that my 2 favorite people I've ever worked with are Matt Zuckery and Jack Lemmon.
Wow.
We visited a grave site together.
It was very, very special. So
that's beautiful.
He's been a blessing. Oh, this is my friend Yasmin. She's one of my actors in my workshop. What does she say? Can you read that, Ken?
By the way, you have a whole roster of students waiting to join you permanently in an online format. International, Glenn. Hey, Glenn, what did I say to you the other day about that?
I believe you offered me the same coaching.
Hey,
and I told you, I told you I'm gonna talk like this. Some of the time, I'm gonna educate like this, and every time, sometimes I'm going to speak like this. It just depends on who I'm speaking to, and sometimes you never know, right? Sometimes you never know. You might be able to sound like this. It just depends on who your audience is. You never know.
Wait, this is not the place to build your reel. For God's sake.
Hey,
do it on your own time. Now, here's the deal, though. Actually, Glenn, you hit on something during your conversation.
Let me breathe. I'm laughing my ass off.
That is awesome.
Oh.
What did we hit on? What did we hit on?
Well, you hit on something that was inferred, but what I got from it is that how wonderful Fox has been, and this is what I think that the gift that the coronavirus has brought us is that we're, at the end of the day, we are human beings, and I don't drive much, but when I do, I feel like I'm in Canada, because when I was in Canada, the only argument I ever got in was when there were 2 of us going to take a spot at the Starbucks, And the only argument was no, you first. No, you first. No, you first. No, you first. That was the argument in Canada. And I just thought, oh my God, what a but this is what I'm seeing here. And I see blue skies. I see birds. I hear birds in the trees around our place here. We are seeing where dolphins return to Venice. We are seeing all sorts of things because the world has stopped.
Yep.
And I believe the world will heal herself. And this is, to me, there is a change in us going on. Why? Does it really help us to be in a hurry? Does it really help us to try to maximize our days? Because right now, you know, when I'm actually busier now than I was before this happened.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm watching a variety of shows because I'm story driven. I mean, I think most of us are. And even though, I mean, I'm related with music is a story too. So I love to watch, like I watched Gaslight 3 times in the last week. What a brilliant fucking movie. What a brilliant film. And I never really saw it before, but I have nothing else to do. So it's not like I have an hour I can watch this. I'm just looking at it, and then 2 days later, I say, I want to see that again. And I love our technology that we can do all of these things. So what I'm feeling is, I'm feeling it. It's not anything we can quantify, but I think this is part of what the virus is going to fix. Because quantifying is a part of our life. It's not all of our life. And when the stock market becomes the most important thing, our economy becomes the most important thing, there's something wrong. That's when I got the feeling, being in Canada, that we have here in America, capitalism gone wrong, because I grew up with capitalism, and I grew up born in 43, man. I was 7 years old in 1950, and that's when we 50s were like exploded as a country. You know, we had defeated all the bad things, and we were on our way, and we had all of it. There were good things and bad things going on, as there always are. But I grew up in this wonderful prosperity, or the feeling of hope and prosperity. And the 60s changed a lot of that. We lost some great human beings in that decade. And we also got involved in a war that I don't think anybody really wanted to get into. Whatever. All I'm saying is that I am actually so self-disciplined that I don't need discipline. Does that make sense? Oh, Glenn, you got to know this. That's
I get it.
You know, well, all of us. I mean, I don't know you that well, Kim, but I know Bob. And, you know, that, and to me, being disciplined, I had to learn to be disciplined because we are children of the world. And when I was given good discipline, I found that freed me to listen to what's coming in from Mother Earth. That's where our creativity comes from. That's where my creativity comes from.
Can you tell us a little, I know, but the audience may not know, about your background and what your life has looked like, just so that they know a little bit more about you?
Well, I'm second generation music industry. My father played in the studios. It's a trumpet player and a cello player. And back in that day, some days he'd work, this was before my time actually, but some days he would work as a cellist and the other one he was a self-taught trumpet player from Missouri who later went to Juilliard. So I love the fact that he had both the street side and the beautiful education side, and that's the way he raised his two sons, my brother and me, my brother John and me. And when I was a little boy, we owned a record store, and we had jukeboxes from 54 different spots, Dad called them. He and my grandfather we had jukeboxes from Santa Monica to Long Beach and all along the coast, everything in between. And it was a great way to grow up because we had whatever music we wanted. And so John and I were raised with the panoply of styles. And I love the way my mom was from West Virginia. She was raised in the hollers, man. You know?
Oh, what part? I used to live in West Virginia. What part?
Logan.
I know exactly where Logan is. Wow.
Well, yes.
Wow.
My grandfather Perry owned the general store.
Wow.
And the family lived above it. It was real simple.
Wow.
But what my mom told me about, now this was an all-white area, right?
Yep.
But when she came to LA, she couldn't find the intensity of the music in church, that freedom, that it was allowing the miners to blow it off. And they did it in music. They let off all of that beautiful energy. You know, I mean, who knows what it was when it walked in the door, but by the time they left, it was beautiful, you know. And my mom raised me in a black church downtown LA because that's the only place she could find that sense of wonder and urgency and whatever she got. And so that's what I was raised on my mom's side. Then I got my dad, who I said is street and Juilliard at the same time. And we own record stores. We have a record store because we were, after the war, they came out with the Seaberg 100s, you know, when they had 100 selections. That changed the jukebox industry. And that doesn't mean anything to anybody unless you own them, but we did. So we had a lot more responsibility, but a lot of more things. So, and the cool thing is that Dad opened a record store because he looked at that we were warehousing 5,000 records at a time. And he thought, you know what, these come and go, but if we're going to warehouse all these, just open a storefront and serve our community. That was my dad's way of thinking. He was a lover of people.
Wow.
And so anyway, I was very blessed with having so many different types of music given to us. And so that's the way I grew up. And also I was raised with a father. I love to brag about him because in 45 years, he never once told me what to do. I was raised with questions and suggestions. He would look at something and say, does that look right to you, son? And I'd look at it and say, no, it doesn't look right. Well, what would you do with it? And I'm like 5 years old. I don't know what the hell. I said, I don't know. But he said, but if you did know.
Wow.
So he was present. My father was present. And to me, that's what it takes. More than being right, more than being wrong. He was just there.
Hey, gentlemen, forgive me for 1 sec. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I had muted my microphone. No disrespect. And by the way, even earlier in the broadcast, when I was looking down, these are not personal texts. All of my looking down was me letting people know that we are on the air now. And my dear friend Jana Stanfield is on the phone with me. She just called, and she would like to join in with us, Ken. So what do we need to do to bring Jana aboard? Tommy, you and Bob will fall in love with Jana.
Yeah. I'm with you, man.
And she's in your world, Tommy. Wonderful singer-songwriter out of Nashville. She'll tell you her story. She's an amazing angel. Okay,
I'm going to give the screen to Bob and Tommy and remove us temporarily.
Okay,
and
let's do that real quick. Okay,
all
good.
Right, I'll call you. All right. So you guys take over for a minute.
Let me call you.
All right.
Okay,
so
Bob.
Tommy, brother,
it's the Bob and Tommy show.
And deservedly so.
Who were those other guys anyway?
I don't know. They jumped on here and they just tried to hijack our talk.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, are you in Manhattan Beach?
I'm in the area. I'm in Playa Vista. Playa Vista is what they call Silicon Beach. It's just east of just a few blocks south of Marina del Rey.
Right. Yeah, that's a great area.
It's very interesting. I love it. It's so alive and it's so young. It's so full of young people with children and dogs and kids, and I don't know. I like to be around this kind of action.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
I'm in Boise, Idaho. So
I love Boise.
So beautiful, and I'm out here, with Brittany and Jeremiah and the grandkids. So we're just hanging out, and I decided, if I'm gonna get locked down someplace, it's gonna be someplace with my family. And,
amen to that.
I came out here, and it worked out great. But having a good time too.
That's troubling me right now because I've got 3 children and 7 grandchildren, and I've got family in Spokane, Washington. I've got family in Fort Worth, Texas. I've got family in Alexandria, Virginia, and I can't see any of them.
Yeah, it's rough. That is brutal.
But that's kind of what we do. But at the same time, you know what? What I love is that we've created new ways of communicating.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we have the electronics.
Sure.
But it's also, what I'm seeing is a sense of humor in it, instead of like, oh, woe is us.
Explain sense of humor. What do you mean?
Well, like I got a message for one of my grandkids. And it wasn't like, oh, Grandpa, I miss you. I wish I could see you. It'd say, oh, I found you. And I thought,
I found you.
That's cool. That's cool.
I love it.
And I said, okay, you win the prize.
Yeah. That's a riot.
But this is
I was driving covering a lot of different states for a couple of months. And I was driving in several states, and my grandson here heard that I was in Texas, I think, when he heard. And all of a sudden, I was in California, and he's talking to his aunt or his great aunt in California. He's 6, and he says, so what are you doing? And she says, oh, I'm here visiting with your grandpa. And he goes, Grandpa's not there. She goes, yeah, he's here. And he goes, he can't be. He's in Texas. And she goes, no, he's here now. And he goes, I don't know. I'm not sure if I believe you or not.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so you're right. The humor is there. Definitely.
Yeah.
So what right now is the thing that is most impressive to Tommy Baylor? I mean, you've seen a lot in your lifetime. What's the most impressive thing in your lifetime? I mean, right now.
Right now is that the phone has been lighting up because a lot of people have called about, I was the vocal arranger and associate producer on We Are the World. I did not write it, but I was a significant part, but I didn't make it what it was. But the thing is that I swear I get 2 or 3 calls or more a day, or how can we relaunch We Are the World? How can we do this? And we've already been through this with Ken Cragen, who started the whole thing off, and Lionel, and Michael's gone, but Quincy's still there. And it's just that, lightning doesn't strike twice in that way. But I'm not saying, but what that tells me that is interesting is that we do need something, and music is always a great vehicle. We do need something, but we need something different. We don't need, and it's just like nothing can. If somebody tells me I love the song you wrote, it's just like somebody else's, I'd be reaching for my gun. It's like, what?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yay, Glenn and Jana
They're back.
are back.
They're back to
Hi,
hijack our show, Tommy.
Yeah.
You thought the show had been handed off to you for the rest of the evening, huh?
It was the Bob and Tommy show.
Yeah. So I want to go ahead, Ken.
When you and I left, Tommy said, "Who were those guys anyway?"
Oh, I forgot, Tommy. Ken can still hear you.
You know, I want to have the pleasure of introducing Jana to our panel. She is a dear, dear angel on this earth, and I first met her at a church in Dallas, at actually the Unity Church, and it was the year that my stepfather passed away. And this angel of an artist played that day, and I thought, there is no way this is some local gal. I mean, we got a lot of talent here in Dallas, we do, but she is singing at the just the highest level, and her voice is heavenly, her music equally that. And so I waited to be one of the last people to speak with her, and really just connected instantly, and have passed out her music to everybody I know. She's got TEDx talks online and everything, and is doing a tremendous amount of work now around the world. She spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia. She's been spend numerous visits to India, and she just speaks this language. And so one of the telltale signs to me of an evolved soul is that they include trust. Trust is a big part of their lives, and we live in trust because we must. And so, and especially trust with one another. Tommy knows that if I call him to say, "Hey, Tommy, do you wanna?" I don't even have to finish the sentence. Ken is no different. Bob is no different. And Jana was the same thing. So I want the audience to realize that no one other than Ken knew that this panel would be looking like it looks tonight. And Ken and I didn't even decide to get online until about 30 minutes before we came online. And as soon as we did, we flirted with the idea of who we might add and what we got. I want you to look at the math here. 3 requests, 3 immediate yeses with no warning, as in, well, when did you want to do it? How about now? Right? How about now? And now is one of my favorite words.
Do you have to point out how not busy we all are?
Well, hey, you know, don't think I'm not going to utilize that, because all of the great, wonderful, inspirational people I know right now, it's a quieter time. I won't say it's a quiet time, but it's a quieter time. And so they are available, and I don't want the world to miss the opportunity for those artists to come together, and those great thinkers to offer what the 12-step program calls experience, strength, and hope to the world during a time where a lot of things are true about this time, but I don't think that anything is truer than the fact that all of us, with no exceptions, I mean, it's from a lesser to a greater extent, but it's still there, which is that all of us have been bombarded by sensory deprivation. And I'm not suggesting that this is a bad thing. I'm suggesting that it is a new thing. And so,
well, I've kind of fallen in love with washing my hands.
Well, there you
Touching
go.
myself.
Tommy, I gotta say, that sounds like a new song, brother.
I don't want to start this here. This is going to get out of hand.
Jana, were you going to play? I do see a guitar in hand. Were you going to play something for us?
I could, if you would like. I'm set up to do a concert tomorrow for a company that's doing sort of a shows into people's homes, and so since I'm set up, I might as well hear. How's this sound?
I'm gonna let Tommy coach you on the sound and let you know how good. Since that's what he does.
Is this a song you wrote, Jana? Song that you wrote?
So, yes, it's a song that I wrote. Now, I want you to imagine that.
Wonderful.
Are you getting some feedback or something?
Yeah, you might.
No, we're getting a little bit of stalling in your signal.
Right.
All right. I wonder if I should use my headset or anything else you'd suggest.
I don't think it has to do with what you're putting in. I think it's just the speed of this.
It's just the internet.
Yeah.
Right now, remember that this is an unprecedented time. There are more people trying to live stream right now than ever in the history of the world. So
exactly, we are overloading the internet. I'm surprised at doing as well.
Yeah.
So go with us, Jana. We're here to listen.
Would it help at all if Jana were a little bit further back from the mic?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
Well, Ken would know.
So have you guys noticed how television news uses words to scare us? And the three triggers that are biggest for us is if they can push us on the buttons of fear, disgust, or outrage. Can you guys hear me?
Well, we're getting in and out. It's a little bit of interruptive.
So yeah, you're going in and out.
To come back when we have a better signal and just maybe listen for a while or chat and not do music?
I think what it may be is, I don't know what kind of a microphone are you using? Do you have a professional mic set up, or is it just like off your laptop?
Yeah.
Yeah, now the signal's bad.
Yeah, the signal's not good. Not good.
Jana,
I'm not hearing you either, Glenn.
Glenn, I don't hear you either.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Now we can.
Now, Ken. Yeah.
Yeah. Jana, you might put in your headset and just give that a shot. But by all means, I don't want you just here for your music, my love. I want you here for your great heart and your great mind.
Amen.
So,
thank you. Well, Glenn knows that for 3 out of the last 5 months, I have been paying my own expenses to be overseas teaching a pilot project that I created called Refugee Film School. And my dream is that teenagers with and spreading, so that as fast as we're needing more videos edited, refugee teenagers can edit video and for $10 an hour can support their families, can buy food, can make sure that their parents don't lose their apartment, because refugees have to buy food, they have to buy groceries, they have to pay rent, they have to buy cars. The government governments don't help refugees in that way. And yet refugees cannot work. It's illegal for them to work. So I've been teaching these refugee teens and they've just become the light of my life for the past 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thing to do. What a beautiful thing to do. And what a great use. And I imagine education. Are they educated in this? Or are you educating them?
I couldn't hear the first part of your question. I heard, or are you educating them?
I said, are they already educated in editing, or are you educating them in editing?
Educating them. A lot of them have never had a computer, and their family doesn't have a computer. I mean, when you have run in the middle of the night with only the clothes on your back, yeah, they don't. I went there thinking that I was going to teach them to edit, In my pilot program, I was going to teach 10 students to edit and get them on Fiverr, because you can charge $5 an hour on Fiverr. And that's to feed their family.
Yeah.
And
how beautiful.
Because they do computers. Yeah.
Wow.
So we've come a long way. My 10 students have earned their computer by editing and attendance and being a good person and being honest. And we started all of our classes just like Glenn does, copying the game that he does at his acting classes, throwing this basketball and saying, "You got this, you got this," and saying each person's name. And this connected these 10 students as a team. So they're from 11 to 15 years old. And all 10 of them are helping each other like brothers and sisters.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
Jana, can you tell us? Go ahead, Tommy.
They know they're important. Well, they know they're important. I know what Glenn does. This is such a beautiful thing. It just makes you feel part of the party. And I'll get out of this because you guys can say it way better than I can.
Jana, can you tell us about the group and those that are dialed in tonight? Can you let them know about your background in New Mexico and getting into music and what it has meant in your life and what it continues to mean today, and just the evolutionary path that you are on?
Yes, I never studied music at university, because I thought, well, that would be like studying horseback riding. Why would you study something that you've been doing since birth? What is the point of that? So instead, I became a television news reporter. I just wanted to be on TV. I've learned that when you say your prayers, you need to be more specific. Yeah. So I was a television news reporter, which, video with pictures, words, and music. But it took me 4 years of being a television news reporter and knowing that I was taking up space in someone else's dream job before I could go off and try to do music.
Thank you for doing that. I'm a big fan of people sticking to their lane and doing what their genius is and not trying to do everybody else's job. And I have a big pet peeve with people who just go, let's play in this industry and mess it all up for everyone that's made a career and a calling and a lifetime out of it and invested all their time, resources, and energy to build it. And then let's just let some people come in and go, hey, let's just do this stuff for free and play and see what we get. So thank you for doing that, moving aside to let that person who needs that particular thing, because that's their genius. Brilliant. I applause. Thank
so
you.
what happened when you redirected your trajectory, Jana?
I decided that I would go to Nashville and try to get a job in the music business. And so I put my long curly hair up in a bun, in a French roll, a French twist, and I wore suits and had a briefcase, going to look for a job in the music business. But the wonderful thing, I just followed just from one step to the next, just asking, if you don't have a job that I would be a good fit for, could you just take me one step further? Could you help me make that one next step further? Could you introduce to someone else who could keep me in mind if they have a job opening up? And so you would call, a guy named Paul Lovelace, and he was a vice president of Capitol Records with Jim Fogelsong when he was president there. And I remember I had gone to his office. He didn't have any job or anything that would fit for me, but I said, could you just take me one next step? And he said, yeah, I'll make a call. And he called his friend and said, you may not have a job for her, but just meet her, because if a job comes open, you're going to want to recommend her for that. And so I just did this trail of, could you just give me one next step, until I got a job. And I worked in the music business for the next 4 years before I figured out how to start my own record company.
So I wrote a chapter about that in my book, and the chapter is called Lily Padding, and I want to explain how this works. And it's the story of the frog who is a mid-sized frog, but very intimidated by the mighty Mississippi and its flow. And his objective is to cross the river, but he's scared. And this advisor frog tells him, you're not going to be able to swim over there, but you can cross it by hopping from one lily pad to the next. And he says, but I don't see a whole bunch of lily pads. He says, no, but you see that one in front of you. This was, by the way, a life lesson that was whispered unto me. This was not taught to me somewhere. I just listen closely to my intuitions. I call them whispers, voice of God, whatever you want to label it. But it has helped me immeasurably in my career, and I've been teaching it for years, that frog, all that frog has to do is that next step that you're talking about. And what I've discovered is opportunity is pressure activated. And I want to say that again, opportunity is pressure activated, meaning that until we physically take that leap of faith onto the next available lily pad, the subsequent lily pads upon which we will hop onto do not rise for us to do that. They are pressure activated based on our level of faith when we leap upon that first lily pad. And when we do, we land on it, and our weight expressed in faith lifts the next two pads up. And now we have two ways we can go. And either one are fine. We trust our instincts. And when we go to that, now four come up. And before you know it, you can take any path you want across the river, but you're not going to do it until you take that next right step. And that's what determines the pathway being cleared for you. I really, really believe that's how it works.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Glenn. And thank you for making quantum physics understandable to me, because that's what you just did.
Yeah.
That's
I would like to,
man.
I'd like to say thank you to everybody that's watching that has shared this out to their Facebook pages and their groups. And I've seen it. I keep seeing it pop up that so-and-so shared, and just want to express gratitude for that you find our message valuable enough to share it with your friends and family. So thank you for that.
I would love to share it with mine. How can I do that? This is my first time.
If you go to Glenn's page, if you and Glenn are friends on Facebook, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can go to his or mine. Mine's wide open to the world. So you can go and you'll see the video, and you just click the share button and share it out.
Right. Great.
And accompany it with a little post. If you put a little post on it, Jana, that will personalize it so that people know what it is you're doing, that you're part of this channel. Good evening, Brian.
So, wow, there is like, I don't know, good 50,000 years worth of wisdom sitting here, excluding me. Look, I'll just remember.
I don't know who he's saying is so old in this group, but
well, I think I have 49,000 of it. Let's put it that way.
I love it. And Tommy,
and you guys split the other two.
And just so everybody watching is clear, and I don't know your whole resume, and I apologize for that, but I know you've worked with Michael Jackson, and you were talking about that, and Quincy Jones, and some pretty I was reading on your Wikipedia page. See, if I ever get my own Wikipedia page, I'll know that I've arrived, right?
Right.
That's like, I don't know. But I was reading that you did some kind of thing with the Partridge Family. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. We were the Partridge Family.
Oh, my gosh.
Before David came on,
wow.
You want to hear this story? Do you have time for this?
Yeah.
Oh, we got all night. Go. Yes, I want to hear this.
Well, I especially love that you and Jana are in a chat. You and Jana being in the same room is phenomenal.
It's unreal.
Well, I'm glad you're here, Jana. I wish we could get that mic to work.
I want to
hear you sing.
So tell us about the Partridge Family, Tommy.
Well, I entered the industry at a great time. It was sort of the golden age, and we were all the wrecking crew. There was a rhythm section, there was a horn section, there was a string section, there was a vocal section, and we were the vocalists. and it was a space and time. It lasted for about 15 years, and it was a beautiful 15 years because this was the time that the business was very different. We were going from 2-track to 3-track to 4-track to 8-track to 16-track to 24-track, all within about 8 years. So it was just kept multiplying the way that giving us more options of recording. And the thing is that nobody ever bought a record because of a drummer. Nobody ever bought a record. Not, I say nobody, but pretty much. Nobody ever bought a record because of the background vocals. And those were the things that were costing the most for them to record. Because these bands that were great, these bands made their name that got a record deal for them, playing in a large area where there's a lot of air. So whatever inconsistencies you may have in music as in life, they actually added to the personality of the sound. And this is how the group, but then they brought him into the studio, and because now you're recording in a refrigerator instead of a stage where the mics are 3 inches from you instead of 4 feet, and you're missing all the ambiance of the room, it brought down, it made musical accuracy being much more important. And this is how Blaine, the greatest studio drummer in my life, and there was just a whole group of us, and we all did our jobs very well. And it was almost shameful. We were making twice what the president was making in 1967. Wow. And yet we were saving record companies money, because if you hear Turn, 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 remember that song?
Yeah. I'm singing it in my head
right. Yeah. Great song. And classic
turn,
song. Turn. And I can't remember the name of the group who did it, but the point is that they insisted on playing their own track on that song. And it took them 77 takes.
Wow.
To get it recorded. That's not because they couldn't play it. They're in a different place. If you play at a party and says, I'm going to pay you 3 times the money, I want you to play in my closet. Well, it doesn't sound the same. There's something wrong. We need to, you know what I mean? It was just the physics of the game. So that opened the door to people like my brother and I, and the rest of the wrecking crew, both the rhythm section, the string section, and the horn section. Ollie Mitchell, we are now in the 6th generation of friendship. We go way, way back to the late 20s. Physics of the game. So that opened the door to people.
We're getting feedback from somebody.
My brother and I, and the rest of the.
Somebody has their speakers on.
Oh. Well, anyway, we were in a golden age. Both the rhythm section and the horn section. Ollie Mitchell. We are now on the.
Hey, I muted Jana. It's Jana. Hey, Jana, you have Facebook open on your computer, and so we're hearing so if you could close that. Sorry.
There you go.
That's all right. Jana's losing her virginity tonight.
That's right.
You guys are being very gentle.
Yes.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Well, it was a special time. So the way that the Partridge Family came around is that, Screen Gems, which is a Columbia television company, came up with the idea of doing the Monkees because you had the Beatles. So they're playing off of that, and they did a great job. But the thing is that they actually hired people that could sing and play. And pretty soon they wanted to sing and play, and they weren't interested in doing the show anymore. So they realized that, well, that was a mistake. So now we're up to 1970, and they decide to do another show because they know we know that the system works. So they were looking at the councils, but the councils couldn't act. And so they said, let's take the concept of the councils, hire actors, bring in studio people, bring in the wrecking crew to do the tracks and the voices and all of this stuff. And we'll have a safe show that we can do. And it ran for 4 years, which is pretty damn good. Yeah. And before they hired David, I was the lead singer, and I was a reticent lead singer because that's not my thing. You know, you either want to be in front or you don't. I'm very confident about what I do, but I never set out to be, you know, the guy holding the mic. So, but you do what you're asked to do, and we did a good job. But then when they hired David, they didn't realize that he was Shirley Jones' stepson, and they weren't aware that he was the singer. And when he came in and he got hired as the actor to play the part, he said, well, you know, I do sing. And so they introduced him to our producer, and the producer said, man, this guy's great. He's awesome. And he was. So that, and I loved it, the fact that because I wasn't getting, it didn't have anything to do, because I'm basically there for a paycheck. And I don't mean that that's my goal. It's just that I'm there wherever I go, I give my best. I give everything I have. But I'm there as a hired hand. I'm there to bring value added to your product. And I'll be damn sure I do that. So I have no wishes to be, oh my God, I'm not getting credit on this. We didn't care if we got credit on this, because if we got credit on that, we would have had to have been signed to the label, and then we could no longer, just like if you are on camera doing a Coke commercial, you can't do a Pepsi commercial.
Right.
Guess what? We as background singers did them all. We made more than the principals. It was crazy the money we made. That's the way. Jana, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Because the career of David, the life and career of David Cassidy fascinates me. Because, you know, if you hear that one person or another died of alcoholism or drug abuse, I just wouldn't put David Cassidy as a person on that list that I would.
He didn't die of either,
Die
Jana.
of alcoholism. Look, everything.
Jana, you're coming in and out, but Jana, he didn't die of alcoholism or drug abuse. He died of Alzheimer's. He knew David very well. David was an upstanding, fabulous man. I would not put, I don't know where you heard about this, but it's fake news.
Oh, well, good. There was a special on was it E that kind of followed him there at the end, and I'd love for that to be fake news.
Yeah, no, he was not a druggie. And in fact, he got it because he was second generation, as I am, in the industry. Once you get to the second generation, you understand that this is a business you're in. It's not about you. It's about what you have to offer. And David understood that. The problem he had was with his father, because he became more, that was a heartbreak for him, because he became more famous. Yes, he became more famous than Jack Cassidy. And that was hard for Jack. Now, I was lucky. My dad's name was Jack too. But when I got to the point that I played trumpet better than my father, I'm sorry? Because he became more. Oh, I'm hearing. Oh, yeah. When I got to the point that I played trumpet better than my father, I remember the day he listened to me and I saw him upset and he left the room. And I thought, well, you know what? It's not patricide, but you know what? It's just, you raised me. I'm the guy. It's time for me to take the mantle. And then my dad, this was the kind of guy he was. He came back in and he said, son, I was upset for a while because I never really pictured you being better player than I am, but you are. And he said, then I thought it would be wrong if it weren't. But that was my dad's ability to absorb and reflect.
Yeah.
David Cassidy, what was Jack Cassidy? Jack Cassidy couldn't do that. So it was sad when and especially because he died in a fire. He died unexpectedly.
Wow.
He left a cigarette go in and it burned up the room and it killed him.
And, you know, we've had a lot of next generation performers, artists that have really eclipsed what their parents did. And I was friends with one of them, very good friends with one of them. A lot of people don't know, younger people especially don't know, that Timothy Hutton had a very well-known father. His father's name was Jim Hutton, a very well-known character actor like myself. If you Google image Jim Hutton, you'll go, oh, that guy.
Yeah.
And we're all known as that guy. But Tim and I spent a lot of time together in LA when I first moved there for probably the first 3 years I was in Cali, from 18 to 21. He was my closest friend, and I was by his side when his dad died very suddenly. And then the baton was passed on to Tim, being the next generation Hutton in the industry. And that same year, Tim won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. And it was based on an opportunity that basically this company, not to take anything away from his skill set, because he's a brilliant actor, but it was a combination of a level of preparedness combined with being caught at the finest time in his life to communicate pain, because they started filming right after his dad passed. And because his dad died so suddenly, you know, Tim had expected his father to be around for many, many more years. And so he was completely distraught. And in the epicenter of that feeling, all of a sudden his agent hears from Robert Redford, and they are wanting to audition him for this role in Ordinary People. And he goes in to basically play the very kid that he was at that time based on circumstances.
Wow.
And it's interesting how things like that can occur in life. Well, we've got a hell of a circumstance going on right now that we're all acutely aware of. And one of the reasons that I wanted to add you to the mix, Tommy, and Jana, you to the mix, and Bob has done many of these with us and many other events. He does Next Level by association, and he can talk about that. But there's a common theme of love and really wanting to connect people. And we have been offering a new phrase. We want to call it our replacement phrase for the term the government handed us and the authorities have passed on, which is this whole idea about social distancing. The truth is that's an inaccurate statement. The truth is we're physical distancing, but we are socially connecting. And we really need to think in terms of physical distancing, but not social distancing, because honestly, in the last 3 weeks, I've never witnessed, in my 61 years, I've never witnessed more connection than this. And it's powerful. And I think it's evidence that we rely as human beings upon connection. Connection is really what feeds us all. And we may think we're an island, but we're not. We're not.
You know, I want to say this because I want to throw it out. I don't think we've touched on this too much. The title, Glenn and I talked about the title, and I came up with the title of this live stream, or the theme of the live stream is, are you really doing the best you can? Because and him and I talked about this, you know, a lot of people say, I'm doing the best I can. And, you know, quite frankly, in this time, that level of, and I'll just, no attacking me. I'm just going to, like, no attacks from the panel. I can mute you and remove you. But, you know, I think that it's an excuse that a lot of people use to settle for staying at a level of mediocrity in life.
Sure,
And I am nobody special. I promise you. I might as well have been raised in the hollers of West Virginia. I'm up in Ohio. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So you know, they say that the only thing that separates a hillbilly from an asshole is the Ohio River.
Oh, I love that.
That's an old West Virginia joke. I learned that when I was down there. So
There were some great West Virginia sayings. My grandmother, I remember asking her, I said, what was the house like where you grew up in? She said, honey, that house is so small, you had to go outside to change your mind.
I had a guy on one of our panels earlier this week. Someone said, Glenn, you're so old that when you were a child, we mentioned something about old school. He said, when you were a child, they just called it school.
that's a good one.
I'd like to hear some feedbacks. Maybe start with Bob. But when somebody says, "Man, I'm doing the best that I can," you know, I always say, "Are you really?"
Yeah. You know, I love that when clients of mine, coaching clients, or somebody says, you know, Bob, I'm doing the best I can. I said, you know, that is fascinating. And they always say, why is that? And I say, well, because if your child's life was on the line, if you didn't do a little bit better, would you do a little bit better? And I've never had somebody say, nope, I guess they'd just die. They always go, yeah, I guess I would. Then you weren't doing the best you could to begin with, or you couldn't do any better.
Well said.
Amen. Yes. So in acting, if I can piggyback on Bob's thing, we call that a stakes note. We call that a stakes note. In other words, issue the actor higher stakes in order to bring the level of intensity up. You've got to give them higher stakes. So, you know, I have my whole life, I don't necessarily know why it took the path that it did, but I love it. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But among the things that are consistent with this path that I'm on is a more truthful rephrasing of catchphrases, such as, well, the boy's doing the best he could. And what I really find is that a more accurate restating of that is that true sometimes? The answer is yes, sometimes. The vast majority of times, and this is just my opinion, Ken and gang, my opinion is that most of the time, it's not that we're doing the best we could, it's that we were doing what we were willing to do.
Right.
Amen.
And that's it.
That's right.
We were doing what we were willing to do. And often we call that the best we could, but that's not a truth. That's a lie. And as evidenced by what Bob just said, because if the stakes were higher, then would you have improved? Would you have done more? And the answer invariably is yes. So once you can start speaking truthfully to people and admit that you were simply doing the full extent to what you were willing to do. So it's really more about the full extent of your willingness, which often has very little to do with your best.
May I speak to that?
Does anyone here, this is the question I always have, does anyone have a Ferrari in this group? Probably none of us have a Ferrari, right? Could we have a Ferrari if we were really willing to, if we were really willing to pay the price? Could we have one? Yes.
Yeah.
But none of us are willing to make that kind of investment because, one, it's either not a priority to us, but the bottom line is we aren't willing to pay that type of price. And, you know, and Tommy, go ahead. I love.
Well, no, but what I love about what you just said, Glenn, is that you're a great example of evolution. We are incrementally, all of us, in the form of evolution. And the fact that you have the courage to move forward and to question this and to say, are you doing your best? Would you do best if your child's life was on the line? Other generations didn't necessarily think about that. I wasn't there.
Right.
But I just get the feeling that this is what I love about life, is that we are all kind of pushing forward inch by inch or millimeter by millimeter. It doesn't really matter. We're not here to measure things. But don't we all want to leave this place a better place than we came into it?
Amen.
Yeah. Amen.
Without a doubt. And, you know, in the Boy Scouts, I don't know if any of you were Boy or Girl Scouts, but I was in the scouting program, and one of the primary teachings of the Scouts was to leave your campsite better off than it was when you got there.
Amen.
Only they
Really?
thought that was a restricted teaching. They thought that was just about the campsite. And somewhere within a few years after I got out of the scouting program, it occurred to me that my campsite was everywhere I go. That's my campsite. In this moment, my campsite is this panel. And I'm not joking. I really mean this. Right now, my campsite is this moment spent with the four of you and all the other people that are listening. So my commitment is to make sure that this campsite is better off than it would have been had I not shown up. And when everyone operates by that premise, then the world goes round so much more beautifully, because we don't want to leave it like it was. I'm going to tell you how this shows up. Simple demonstration of this, and it happens regularly in my life, and I coach this. You know, there is a period in our lives when we're gassing up our cars that we don't really seem to know what to do with as a people, because we've got, you know, 25, 30 bucks worth of gas we need to put in the car, and we're kind of just standing there with our thumb up our butt while we hold it like a goof, and maybe we whistle a tune or whatever. But people don't tend to look really busy while they're filling up their car. And what you can do is actually put the locking mechanism on it and then spend the 3 minutes or so, or 4 that it takes to fill your car, cleaning the bay, which I've been doing since I was a teenager. So I will look down and pick up trash that I did not put there. I will pick up things. If sometimes I will see an earthworm, especially if it's a rainy day, and I will relocate that earthworm to a nearby bush, because I know that the lifespan of an earthworm in a gas station bay is minimal at best. So I'm doing something creative with that time. Feel free to laugh. I'm okay with that.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at your presentation.
But the idea is that I'm going to be the guy that the cosmos uses to make sure that bay, I do it all the time, guys. I walk my talk. That bay looks better than it did had I not gassed up. And look, I was given hands to do it. I don't know that this is the best chapter to do that, but if you do, by all means, wash your hands. But I will still pick up garbage and put it in a trash can. And George Carlin had an expression for this. And the expression, it was an acronym, and I was blessed to be friends with him. He taught the world an acronym called NIMBY, which stood for Not in My Backyard, which simply meant that the average person will not do diddly squat about any kind of mess until it dares to threaten their backyard. And then all of a sudden there's this huge wake-up call of, now there's this amazing awareness about something that has been a problem for quite some time, but now it visits your backyard and you don't want anything to do with it.
Like coronaviruses?
Yeah, like you weren't prepared to do anything about it until it visited your backyard. And now all of a sudden we've had so many people in the last couple of weeks using the expression, wow, shit's getting real. I got news for you. Shit's been real our entire life. Shit has always been real. Shit did not just start getting real. And so that is a misperception of reality. But here's the problem. It's becoming real because it is now showing up in people's backyard. And in fact, it's knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I got to explain why I was laughing so hard. And this will give you some insight to what Glenn was saying. Glenn and I were leaving a Denny's after it had rained one night for dinner. And we're walking out and there's a worm on the sidewalk. And Glenn reaches down with a little business card, picks the worm up, And we're like, oh, he's saving a worm. How sweet. He takes it over the planter, proceeds to drop it from about 3 feet, which is about a 20-story equivalency to a worm. And we broke out in laughter. But he saved the little worm's life. And he does that everywhere he goes. He literally does exactly what he's talking about. Does it everywhere without a.
What did Yasmin just say? Did Yasmin just say something about saving a cricket? What did it say?
Yeah.
A cricket, yeah.
She said it was a 20-minute ordeal.
Well, all I can say is, hey, if you had been designed to be a cricket and you were about to be crushed, you would love if I were the one that showed up in your life.
That's right.
That's right. Amen.
Yeah.
Well done.
Next time I see a worm laying at a gas station, I will think of you. But
please
see, in
don't.
Ohio, it gets really cold. So when you're pumping gas, you do the minimal amount of putting gas in your car and you go. Like, because it's like, yeah. But I'll tell you something. I don't know if you're on Instagram or not, but there is this guy. I don't know about you, but when I pull into the grocery store anywhere and I see where lazy ass people have left their shopping carts, not in the cart corral, but like in a parking spot or whatever. So there's this guy on Instagram and he's on TikTok and he's everywhere called Cart Narcs. And he literally goes, I've seen him in Burbank. I've seen him in Dallas. I've seen him all over the dang place. He goes around and he videos people. So if Bob Donnell like just got done shopping, I'm sorry, I know you wouldn't do this, Bob, but I have to.
Don't project.
You leave your cart sitting there. He literally comes running up and he's making all these sounds like whoop 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 whoop, and people turn around and he's filming them and he's like, "Hey there, lazy bones, you need to put your cart back in the cart corral." And I mean, people get violent, they get angry, and he's like, and they're like, "Do you work for the store?" He's like, "No, I'm a cart narc agent."
Hey guys, can I please offer the spiritual bridge to this?
Yeah.
Because while I love the laughter, there is a deeper message here, and I really want to communicate that. And the deeper message is simply this: every one of us was raised knowing the golden rule. Yep. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We all heard that. And somewhere about 25 years ago, that golden rule was expanded for my own understanding. And I've been sharing it with audiences ever since. And that does not minimize the golden rule. The golden rule is beautiful. And yes, I encourage people to abide by it. There is one level of understanding that actually goes beyond that. And I want the audience to really hear the ever so slight nuance, the difference. And that is this: it's not just do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but rather do unto others as you would have life itself do unto you. To do unto others as you would have life itself do unto you. So for example, we can love an individual and treat them with respect. But what we mustn't do is then stand around and wait for the return on our investment to uniquely come through them, because quite often it doesn't. And so now what can happen is if a child is misled to believe that it will always come back equal from however you download it, then the problem is they could lose faith in the golden rule. When if we were to broaden their understanding to one of where, okay, so if I'm to understand this correctly, as long as I am coming from love in all that I do, wherever I aim it will not necessarily be the place from whence it returns. And then you begin to understand that, in fact, what you're doing is signing boomerangs with love, and you're sending them out into the world everywhere you are, keeping your campsite better off than it was when you got there. And then all of a sudden you're bombarded by relationship capital, because the love that I show Bob Donnell winds up coming back to me tenfold from either Bob or Tommy or Jana or Ken or an unexpected movie deal that comes my way. And what I understand, it is the true understanding of what karma is all about in the first place. And we never, ever want to supervise the giving that we offer to this world. But know this, no giving goes unacknowledged. I really believe that. And it may be unacknowledged by the person we gave to. It might be. It usually isn't. Usually they notice. But my point is this, it's okay if they don't notice. It's okay if they don't notice, because the fact that somebody didn't notice your giving does not make your gift less significant. I want to say that one more time. The fact that somebody didn't notice your giving in no way, shape, or form makes your gifts less significant. And it is all duly noted within this beautiful system of things that we live in. So what can we be doing, guys, to stick back to the title? Can you revisit the title of tonight's talk, Ken, so that we can at least get on that before we close tonight?
Are you really doing the best you can? Jana didn't chime in on that. I'd love to hear her take.
Great.
Am I really doing the best I can? I believe that what I have to work with and the constraints of being where we are, I do believe that I am. Yeah, and that feels good. I feel really proud of what happened at Refugee Film School, and there's a lot of people who need help. So I'm ready. I am ready to help.
I love it.
That's awesome.
That's beautiful, Jana.
Wow.
And Glenn, to echo, to add on to what you just said, I have a song that I've written. It says, may the good you do return to you tenfold. And did you guys know that my words, a quote of mine from one of my songs, is in a commercial right now that's running on nightly news and
very cool.
All of
what is the lyric they're using?
It says, we cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that we can do.
Beautifully said.
That is actually the lyric that I introduced you by earlier this afternoon.
So the song is a very simple song, and it's translated into many different languages, so that in all these different languages we can say, I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do.
That's a beautiful sentiment.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if you see a Nature's Harvest commercial, you may see the quote, which they found, the advertising company found it on Pinterest.
Wow.
I've never put anything on Pinterest, but thank you, Pinterest, whoever did.
Hey, Jana, is it too much to ask you to do a couple of bars a cappella since the guitar is acting up?
Oh, I can do that easily. It's written to be a call and response. It's easy to sing. All the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good, that I can do, And then I can go into, let's see, French or Spanish. What's your pleasure?
Let's do French.
That's
Je ne peux pas dire, tu l'as bien, dans le monde a besoin. Okay, yeah, something French goes there. A besoin de tout le bien que je peux lui faire.
I love it in French. That's beautiful in French. Everything sounds better in French.
Yeah, it does.
I had a manager that managed me in the theater, and in terms of my work.
To be with you guys, see you and talk to you again.
Thank you, Jana. Tommy, what were you saying?
Jana.
Tommy, what were you saying?
Go. My students are on opposite time, and I've got to help them right now. So I'm going to have to sign off, everyone. Thank
you. Thank you for joining.
Join us, Jana. It was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you, honey.
Anyway, I have this great manager that works with me in the theater, and he had a wonderful girlfriend who was the daughter of an ambassador, and she was a linguist. She spoke like 12 languages, crazy language. She could spend whatever they speak in Afghan. I mean, it was just crazy. But she was half French, and when we used to go out, I used to say the rudest thing that you can say to me in French. And it was like a love story. Just hearing it.
Yeah, cursing sounds like poetry in French.
Isn't it beautiful? Such a gorgeous language.
It is. My wife speaks fluent French, so.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Why are you here right now? You should be home.
I know.
What are you doing, Kat?
Hey, I've got a poem I dug out of a drawer that I wrote during a really dark period in my life, and I looked back at it today, and it's very, very short, but I found it to be uplifting, and I want to share this with you. It's super
Please.
short.
Yeah.
Please.
It's roses are red, violets are blue. I've got a gun. Get in the van.
You are such a romantic poet.
So romantic.
A romantic poet.
That would definitely sound better in French.
I thought that might cheer you fellas up.
Oh my God.
You know, Tommy, I'd like to mention that the downside of Jana leaving, I love her to pieces, but there's an additional downside for you, my friend. And the downside is that by her leaving, you lost your prestigious Paul Lynde type center square. You were positioned like it was Hollywood Squares. You had the centermost position, and now you're just simply up in the upper right-hand corner. It's not such a big deal anymore.
You want to hear a funny story that probably isn't that interesting, but when I was in college, I had a friend that was a lyricist that I was working with at the university. She was a student too, and she became kind of a student lookout for people to put on the shows like PDQ, and they came up with Hollywood Squares. And she asked me, she said, they'll pay you $25 if you go down to CBS and just they're going to, whatever it was either NBC. But anyway, we went down there and I played, who was the guy that was Charlie,
Charlie Weaver.
Charlie Weaver. I played him. And it was just a tryout for the whole thing, but it just kind of blew me away because I'd never heard of it. And then I'm playing this interesting role, and then the show ran for 20 years.
Wow,
it's wild how you fall into those things.
One of the funniest things, and it has nothing to do with topic, but one of the funniest things that was ever said on that show. Paul Lynde, of course, was known for his one-liner. And Peter Marshall said, Paul, in Alice in Wonderland, who kept crying, I'm late, I'm late? And Paul went, Alice and her mother's sick about it. Oh my goodness gracious. So what, I don't want to say advice, but what encouragement can we, and I know that we've offered a lot of stuff tonight, but what encouragement might we offer, not just everyone, but specifically people who are having a really hard time? And I love, Ken, one of the things I love so much about you, and Bob, I want to say in front of Ken right now, I want to say this to you, my friend. Thank you very much for introducing me to two of the coolest men this planet has ever seen. Between Tommy and Ken, they are gems. And one of the beauties about being on a panel with them is that I sit and I don't know which is the greater blessing, being on the panel or observing the panel, watching it and learning and just realizing I'm in some really, really good company right now. And I promise you, it does not go unnoticed. So thank you. You introduced me to Tommy several years ago. I've been a Tommy Baylor fan ever since, and we've done a lot of presentations together, and he's spoken at my school together. And now, as of just a few weeks, Ken Waltz has appeared on the scene, and he is every bit as much of a gem. And I really recognize true beauty when I see it. I love about both of these gentlemen the fact that they are extremely compassionate men. And during this time where I think we are moved to be compassionate and passionate, both, what can we be doing during this time? And I want to start with you, Ken. What do you feel that we can be doing during this time to give us our best shot at a healthy mental state? So this is a twofold question. What can we be doing that allows us to remain sane during this time and upbeat to the extent that we are able? And then also, what can we be doing during this time to be bolstering who it is we will be for all people who survive this, right? For all of those on the backside of this, how can we be utilizing this time to improve the humans that we are?
Well, I think, if Tommy called you up and said, Glenn, man, I keep taking this tiny, tiny, tiny little molecule of cyanide every day, and it's not killing me, but boy, I sure do. I feel like crap afterwards for quite some time. And then I start feeling a little bit better after the cyanide wears off. And then, every day I end up taking that tiny little molecule of it. And I just feel like crap, man. And what would you say? What would you say to Tommy?
I'd tell him stop taking the cyanide.
Right. So we talked about this early on. I haven't watched the news in, I don't know, 10, 12 years, maybe more. Turn that shit off. I don't care. Look, the only reason CNN is worth millions of dollars or billions of dollars, and Fox News and CBS and all of these news networks, is because they sell a shitload of advertising at a higher rate when there's a lot of people watching their negativity. Turn it off. You'll be okay. I promise you, you will survive without the news, and you'll not only survive, you'll thrive. So turn the news off. That's my first. And yes, that is advice. You can take that one to the bank.
Right. So that's mindset coaching for today, and it's beautiful. What can people be doing during this time to bolster their beingness? I'm going to use a little alliteration there, to bolster their beingness. What can people be doing?
This is going to sound, this may sound woo-woo foo-foo to a lot of people, but I don't care. I've been sober 17 and a half years by the grace of God and a lot of hard work early on. And about a year into sobriety, someone said, Ken, you're wound tighter than a bullfrog's ass. You need to calm down. And I was like, I don't, what do you mean? And you need to learn how to meditate. Just start meditating. I'm like, what in the world does that mean? Like, what do you mean meditate? Like pray to Jesus? And they're like, no, meditate, just meditate. You need to close your eyes, sit Indian style, and just focus on your breath coming in and out of your nostrils. And if you have questions for God, ask them first. I learned a long time ago that praying is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. So I've meditated every single day of my life for the last 16 and a half years, and I will I'll be late for a meeting before I miss meditation in the morning. And I don't know what I mean. I'm on here with Tommy Baylor, Bob Donnell, and Glenn Morshower. It works.
Amen.
I don't know. So, look, turn off the news and learn how to there's and I wrote this in my book, a story, an old Hindu story, about and I'm gonna butcher it, but the story goes that a long time ago the gods all got together and they were really ticked off that humans were abusing this power they had given them, and that what the power was, they had all the answers to anything they could ever want in life. Anything. It was there. It was free to them. Anything they wanted. And the humans were abusing this power. So the gods got together and decided, you know what? We're gonna hide this from the humans. And the first god speaks up and he says, let's put it on the highest mountaintop that we can. And they all agreed, no, they'll learn how to climb. They'll find it too easy. Let's not put it there. And another god says, you know what? Let's bury it in the deepest part of the ocean. They'll find it there. They'll learn to dive down and get it. And the wisest god of them all finally speaks up and he says, let's hide it deep within the humans themselves. They'll never think to look there. And so it continues today. So when we learn how to go down inside just beneath the xiphoid process, and we learn how to tap into that power that we all have, because we're all the same. We are all made up of the same exact power, but most people are in denial about it. So learning how to tap into that power is the biggest thing that anybody could do. And turn off the news. There, I'm done.
Good. Bob or Tommy, what do you think?
Go ahead, Tommy.
I feel that this is the time to be cognizant of what the other person is feeling. And just let it be. And I agree with you, Ken. I'm a student of Vipassana, and it probably changed my life more than almost anything else. And it's a meditation, and it's not a belief, as you understand. It's a technique that they teach you. It's like teaching you how to do your times tables. If you do them, you're going to figure it out. If you don't know them, you're not going to figure it out. Anyway, I just find, and that brought me back when you were saying that, is that what I found when I first did Vipassana the first time was that I left there being aware, because you don't talk to anybody for 10 days. And you're in the room with them and you don't talk to your roommate. They have a certain set of rules. But the thing is that your awareness is growing by not talking, by not trying to have social order. But you're very responsible to each other. I just found it opened up a whole new world. And this is kind of what I'm reminded by with our present situation, is that whatever someone's going through is impossible for me to understand. But I do have the power of being aware and being accepting of whatever it is.
Love that. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Beautiful, Tommy. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah. Cool. Good stuff. I think for my part on that, I think it's threefold. One is be willing to have meaningful and deep conversations, and be willing to have the hard conversations. I think, people are, Glenn and I both did a TED Talk in Sugar Land, Texas the same day. And, in that talk, I said, people crave one thing more than they crave any drug ever made in the history of mankind, and that's connection. And I think the only way we really connect is to have real conversation. And so I think, one, having meaningful conversation, being open to that. I love the empathy part that you're talking about there, because I agree. It's not so important right now to be right. It's just
Amen.
important to be present.
Being there. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't need to convince you of whether the virus is true or whether it's not, or whether there's a conspiracy. I don't need to do any of that. The thing I need to do is I need to show you the kindness of one human being to another human being and saying, man, regardless, I love you, and be present to that conversation. I think that's where we're gonna really move the needle in getting, not only coming through this, but getting through this in a powerful way, and in a way that's going to make life more meaningful going forward.
Yep.
Beautifully
said, Bob. Yeah.
It's awesome.
There is a friend of mine that reached out to me during this time, and we're talking about how we were all in the same boat. And I loved his clarification. He said, we're in the same storm. We are not in the same boat.
Amen.
And I thought that was a real accurate insight, because the boat we're in largely determines our relationship with the severity of the storm. Right. So obviously, depending on what location within the city of New Orleans you were in, determined how severe Katrina was.
Yeah.
So, and to your point, Tommy, we really don't know, no matter how much we think. And in fact, I years ago attended the Grief Recovery Institute. It's one of the greatest weekend training sessions I've ever been exposed to, led by a man named Russell Friedman. And Russell said that there are 63 things, and he's done his work. He has been a researcher of grief his entire life. God rest his soul. Russell has moved on now from the earth, but he left some really gems, true understanding gems behind. And he said that the most commonly said thing to someone who is in grief, the most commonly thing said is actually also the least helpful. So think about that. The thing that is said more often than not is the one that is the least helpful, and that is, I understand how you feel. And I know that people mean well, but we were coached not to say that. And I learned in 1992 not to say that, because the truth is, no matter how much you think you do, you don't. And the reason is, even let's say if you've lost a child and someone else loses their child, they lost a relationship that was unique unto them, right? It's not, no matter whether yours is good, bad, middle ground, whatever it is, it will never be the exact mirror image of anyone else's relationship. So not a great thing to tell someone you understand how they feel, because the truth is you don't. He said that the best thing you can do is say nothing, but just look at them. And obviously, again, we're not doing it during this coronavirus period, but offering someone your arms, that says everything that you might need to say, right?
Yeah.
Or just say, I'm with you. Just say, I'm with you. I am with you.
Right. Yes, that's the truth.
Moment, I am with you.
It's
but we
the
do
truth,
not,
and that's
do
a
not
powerful
understand.
statement.
Yeah.
You know, my dad had a phrase that he used with me in the one most terrible moment of my life. I was in my early 20s. I don't need to go into why. It wasn't anything I did wrong or anything. It's just something that happened to me, and my life fell apart. And the way my dad treated me with it, instead of saying, I understand, he said, son, I have no idea of the depth of your pain, but I know you're in it.
Well, see, that's someone beautifully respecting that it is your unique pain.
Yes.
They're really giving you the right to own your own pain, instead of claiming that they know more about it maybe than you do.
Exactly. Yeah. I know what you're going through, man. You're cool. Yeah. You're cool. You'll be fine. You know, I went through this 2 weeks ago. I got over it. You'll be all right. Yeah. which is totally disrespectful.
I find that true all the time with what I call the Me Too movement, and it's not the one you're thinking of. It's the Me Too movement when somebody says, I'll be in a place and somebody will say, I lost my child, and I'll say, wow, I'm so sorry. Tell me about that. Tell me about, your child. How old were they? And give me some information. And they'll tell me, and they'll walk away, and one of my friends or somebody will turn to me and go, why didn't you tell them about your child, about Macy? Why didn't you tell her about that she died? And I go, because it wasn't my story. It was their story. I'm listening to their story. I don't need to say me too. Me too just violates, me too just shuts the door and stops the line of communication. So yes, I find that often.
Good point.
That's so respectful, Bob. And it also says enough about your story. Let's bring it back to my experience.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Right.
Which is what I've been waiting for you guys to say all night. For God's sakes, can I talk about me for a minute?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Please do.
Well, one of the greatest nights at NLBA, Next Level by Association, was this. Glenn calls me and says, "Hey, I'm in town. I'm gonna come down." Great. Tommy says, "I'm coming down. I happen to be in town." Great. Both unexpected, same day. They both get there and they go, "So who's the guest of honor?" And I go, "Well, they canceled at the last minute, so we don't have guest of honor." They go, "We can do it." So the three of us in front of the room and just did conversation like this with the room full of people. And it was so cool. At the end of the night, we all stood up and we all sang "We Are the World" together. And that was such.
Yes, I'll never forget that. And that was a beautiful night, man.
Wow.
That's really the night that I got to know you, Glenn.
Yes.
I mean, listen to you talk. Listen to you talk, because we're talking about related subjects. And listen to you talk, I went, oh, God, I love this dude, man.
Yeah, that was really cool. And then another night when we all ended up in New York, Tommy lived in New York, but Glenn and I happened to be in New York the same weekend on a fluke. And we ended up having dinner together with a couple other people.
TJ Clark.
At TJ Clark's, and had an amazing time, great conversation. And I guess, when I talk about, people say, well, what's your passion, Bob? I mean, I know you like sports, and I know you like, but my passion is really, bringing great people to a table, having a great conversation, and the table might be virtual or otherwise, it doesn't matter. But, when you can surround yourself with these kind of people where you just say, hey, let's like you guys did. Hey, let's hop on. Great. We all hop on, and we all want to contribute to the conversation, but we all don't. None of us need to be the star. We all want to just be a contributor. I love that. And I love all three of you for being that person in my life.
And the interesting thing that came up for me when you were saying that is that Ken, I don't know you well enough, but I get the feeling we're all connectors. But the way we do it is so totally different. Glenn has his way.
Right.
And none of us can do what Glenn does. Nobody can do what you do, Bob. I have my own way, and I get the feeling, Ken, that you do too. But the point is that we're all doing the same job. Is bringing people there instead of maybe separating them.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, all out of fear. I mean, I think the only time we separate is when we feel that we have to guard ourselves or whatever. That's another show, Ken.
Can you? But you know what, Tommy? Can you take a couple of minutes to go further down that path, because that's a fascinating discussion.
Well, for me, it's a very natural discussion because I was very lucky about the reason I talk about my father and my upbringing was because I didn't realize it at the time, but much later in life, I realized that it was very different than most people, not all people, because we didn't create anything. But my dad, we had a saying in our family that we talked about all the time, and it came up in conversation, and it was never said without meaning, but it was like, oh yeah, of course, we're all here to serve others. That was one of our family creeds. We are all here to serve others. And it wasn't like other families aren't. This is what we are as humans. who are we without each other? We're nothing without each other. So we're all here to serve others, and each one of us has a talent that the other one doesn't have. I just described the 4 different ways that we all bring people together. But I believe that the 4 of us do. And we have our individuality, which is another reason that my dad always instilled in me, that I have no competition. I've never felt that I'm in competition with anybody else. I learned at a very young age, you know, when I thought I had competition, my dad said, "Son, I disagree. I couldn't disagree more, because there's only one Tommy Baylor. There have been 100 billion people walk this planet, and there's never been a Tommy Baylor. There will never be another Tommy Baylor. And the best thing that you can do is be you, because that will separate you from anybody else."
Wow.
And it's not a competition, because people will hire you because they want you. They're not going to hire you because they couldn't get Glenn. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have had this teaching in our school. One of the things that the students are most drawn to is the profound absence of competition. I don't allow it. I tell them, you will experience, if you're going to train with me, you need to understand this. The only competition you will ever experience in my workshop is you competing with previous versions of yourself.
Amen.
But you will never be competing with anyone else in the room. I'm not interested in seeing who has the best scene. You're not going to get a trophy from me for being the most connected person in class that night, because that would presuppose that there is some sort of unspoken competition here. And so we don't do that. And all we do is look every week to step deeper and deeper into the full expression of our own potentiality. And that's what we're here to do. And I believe that my entire life is I'm here with an assignment. I've really abided for the length of my days. I've abided by the old adage, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Amen.
And I have always felt like I was eating from a land of a plate of plenty, if you will. And this is not a monetary statement. This is about just a readiness, a reservoir of readiness of whatever it is, whether it's emotional readiness, financial readiness, physical readiness, but to simply be at the ready, because as human beings, one of the things we are called to be is first responders. All of us. To be, and I would add a word, if I may, to first responders, and that is to become best responders. So not just first responders, because you can be first on site and still suck at responding well. Right. So it's not just enough to be the first, but you also want to find ways to have basically the healthiest. And what is, for example, what is the swiftest, most loving, healthiest, and best response in this moment to this unique situation that I am in, whatever it is. And now we're being asked, Bob, to your point about what happened that night with Tommy, you know, all we did, and I know you know this, but all we did was call an audible. That's all we did. And you, as the leader, called an audible. You said, okay, our guest speaker's not here, but you refused to see that as a problem. And that's why that night went well. You just simply said, so we'll do it to the left instead of the right. And there was simply no problem about it. Instead of engaging that mindset of, oh my God, what do I do? What do we do? We had a guest and everyone is expecting. You simply went, so let's the 3 of us get up here and sit on stools. And I don't know who your intended guest was that night, but I know this. I know they weren't missed.
Right.
And just as
to be honest, Glenn, I can't even remember who it was supposed to be that night.
Which means we did our job.
Right. Amen. But I'll tell you that the reason I could call an audible, is because I surround myself with people like you guys, that I know that it's gonna be handled. I know that the right people are gonna show up and the right people are gonna be in the room. But if I surrounded myself with a bunch of flakes, or I surrounded myself with, and that's why I get rid of people in NLBA or anything else. If they're flaky, just don't even apply. But the bottom line is, the only reason I can call the audible is because I'm really confident in the people I surround myself with, like you guys.
Well, this is your life's purpose, that I believe, because we're all here because of you tonight.
Yeah,
that's true. You are the hub of this group, Bob.
you are.
Well, thank you.
May I ask you something, Bob?
Honored.
To you.
Yeah.
I have a direct question to you, and I want to restate that. You are the literal hub of us being gathered tonight. How does that feel? How does that feel to you? That this gathering would not have occurred had you not been willing to keep your appointments, plural. You kept appointments, and this is a demonstration of that. How does that feel?
Feels, I would hate to just use the word great, because I think great would not put it. I think I feel grateful that I could even play a role in that.
That's the way I would feel.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, your whole coaching is on next level. And I got to tell you, I've been doing a tremendous amount of next level coaching in my workshop, which has been largely under the influence of you, dear brother. And one of the tributaries that I have taken with regard to next level coaching is I have been so bold as to say, look, I don't know that it all works this way, but I want to tell you certainly that an aspect of next level by association works this way. That any time we level up, and I already know in advance you're going to love this, anytime we level up in any way, whether we're leveling up our health, whether we're leveling up our career, our income, whatever it is, we're just going to level up in a specific area. I have discovered through much research of just trial and error, nothing more, trial by fire, that as we level up, there are two things that must occur in order to successfully level up. And those two things are this. We're going to have to lose things. Things must be sacrificed. In other words, ways of being, things that we used to, quote, do or get away with. Well, yeah, you did those because where you came from, that's what people do. This is not elitism. This is not arrogance. It's a truth about leveling up, but it's twofold. One, you're going to have to give up a certain amount of bullshit that you practiced at that other level because it's simply not done in this room. And if you can imagine a gatekeeper, when you come up to the elevator and you start to reach for those double doors, the gate person says, you're welcome to look inside, but you can't come in yet. And the reason you can't come in is because the gatekeeper has to assess, one, have you qualified for entrance by giving up things that are simply not done in here? Like, for example, a room where you no longer feel sorry for yourself. So I'm just citing an example. Let's say that you habitually feel sorry for yourself. As you go to the next level and you seek to gain entrance, you will be disallowed because the people that occupy that space, what they have in common is they don't feel sorry for themselves.
Right.
Because in order to gain access to that, total ownership is a requirement. So two things have to occur. You're going to have to let go of previous habits. And here's the flip side of the coin. You're also going to have to acquire new habits. You're going to have to add to your game plan habits that were not part of previous levels you've lived on in your life. So it is a combination of letting go, releasing, sacrificing, and also obtaining. You have to obtain. And we learn to obtain from people who are in that next room, right? And whether those levels are side by side or on an up and down scale, I don't want to suggest that one is higher up in terms of importance, but certainly we can say that going deeper is a truth or going further down the life's path. I think we all have a checkpoint that we have to pass through in order to qualify for membership. I mean, I don't think it's okay if you change the carpet in your house to straight white. I'm just making this stuff up as I go. Let's just say you've got snow white, brand new carpet. I don't think that I have a right to enter your home with my muddy shoes. I don't think I have that right. I think that you have the right to say, Glenn, I love you and you're welcome in here. But what you'll notice is that all of the people that are in here they're all in their bare feet, or they're all in their socks because this is brand new, gorgeous carpet. I don't get to walk into your room however I want to walk into it. I don't believe in that kind of membership. And I believe that I know this, and I can speak to it all day long. I won't, because we need to wind this up at some point. But I know, for example, that you didn't get to be on the West Wing by being a schlub. You didn't get to do that show if you were a schlub. Right. You were not welcome to play ball. 24 was no different. The Resident is no different. That in order to gain access, you're going to have to arrive at a certain level of proficiency, period. Amen. Period. Or you are not admitted. And the only people who label that arrogant are simply folks that don't understand that that's not the case. It's not arrogance at all. Look, I played a doctor, but I have no business walking into an ER room and saying, hey, man, I'm fixing to cut open somebody's head here. If you can give me a table saw, I'd love to cut open somebody's brain because I played a surgeon on TV. Playing a surgeon on TV does not qualify me for that. So you have to be willing to pay the price. And this is the polar opposite. It's the polar opposite of the word entitlement. It's the polar opposite.
Well said, man.
I'd love to add to that, Glenn, because you said, and I love what you said, and let me see if I can frame this the right way. So, there is the old adage that to get to the next level, you have to be willing to give something up, right? You have to be willing to sacrifice something to get to the next level. And so in my mind, and I think probably 99.9% of planet Earth, if you make that statement, they're thinking, well, I got to give up a comfort. I have to give up something that I love. I have to give up something. And I personally don't think that that's what that means. I think that you have to give up some false beliefs that you may have about success, about money, about loving people, about everything that you may believe. Because for me, I was raised I was raised in a really, really poor family, and never, ever. I mean, I had to get a job at 7 years old just to make enough money to buy the name brand clothes that all my friends were wearing, right? Maybe not 7, maybe it was 11, but I started working early, and it took me a long time to have this mindset shift of going from I'm from the poor tribe, or I'm from this poor, family. And so I'm just destined to be poor. And there was a huge mindset shift for me. And I'm sure that anybody, if, you go from making, if let's say that you've never made more than $1,000 a week, and you've done that for 10 years, well, you're going to automatically have this unconscious ceiling that you think $1,000 a week is it for, 50 grand a year. And that's my limit. But then you hand somebody $250,000 for a year's salary, and they're like, it bursts through that ceiling. So you have to be willing to not necessarily give up the comforts that you have, but give up maybe some false beliefs about what is possible for you.
I don't want to overspeak my welcome, but may I address that specific thing, please?
Please.
Because there's a term for it in metaphysics. And I am a metaphysician and trained in metaphysics for many, many years. And the term is ME, and it stands for mental equivalent.
Yep.
Right. So their mental equivalent is set. And I've used this admittedly peculiar manner in which to teach mental equivalency, but it can best be described if you look at the float that is in the back of your toilet tank. Most everyone can relate to that. At some point, it's been making noise in your home, and you lifted up the lid and you adjusted it. And one of the things you'll notice, all of you guys and all the viewers, you'll notice that when you drain a tank, there is something that is left there known as a ring, right? There is a ring that is on the porcelain, and that ring is there for one reason only. And the reason it's there is because that is the level to which the water has risen every time, not some of the time, all of the time.
Yep.
And the reason it does that is because that is where the float has been set. The float has been set to tell the water to shut itself off at a particular point, and it does it every time. This is an issue of consciousness. Our consciousness is a massive toilet tank float. And in all different categories, we rise to a level of familiarity and our consciousness shuts it off.
Yep.
And so we have to reposition the float and recalibrate it in order to rise to a different level. As long as nobody is going to rise to a higher level if they're using the same float that has produced the current ring.
Amen.
I agree. And you know what?
Love that analogy.
That is a beautiful analogy.
Amazing.
And it's one of those things where my dad had these little sayings he would say. His answer to what we've been talking about, he'd say, son, you can't get to second with your foot on first.
Yep.
So if you want to look at, if you're looking at of giving up first to get the second, that's your choice.
That's right. Wow. Love that too. Love that.
You guys rock, all of you. Holy moly.
Are you ready to call it a night, Ken? Are you happy?
I'm brilliantly happy. Like I'm whenever. I don't care.
Dinner isn't here yet, Ken. I don't understand.
What are some of
Are
the
we
comments
supposed to be having dinner?
Yeah, I thought Ken was ordering DoorDash for all of us.
You thought that was part of the deal, Tommy? What are some of the comments saying? I haven't been looking at the chat room.
Oh, there's some great. I mean, we have had hundreds.
I love it. I've got to fix my metal toilet. Yeah, Brian Vandermeulen.
Yeah,
love that.
Got to fix my metal toilet.
Good to see you, Brian.
So the mental equivalency factor, all that means is our mental equivalent is when we elevate our mental equivalent, then we will outpicture or manifest things to equalize or to mirror that. So whenever we look at our lives, we can look at our lives and what we see tells the story. It doesn't tell the story of where we're headed. It tells the story of where we've been in consciousness.
Where we've been, exactly. Yes. Amen,
right,
man.
But we can change the trajectory by resetting the float. There's no question. It's one of the most helpful life tips I was ever handed, and it was many years ago in metaphysical training. You know, and what do we do in life? We keep what works and leave the rest.
Exactly.
You know?
But I think that people do, and I say this from experience, personal experience. We hang on, like, you know, when I was an active alcoholic, I had made millions of dollars and blown it all drinking and boozing and partying and all of that craziness. But I literally, if somebody came into my life and I grew close to them and they said, dude, do you remember what you said last night? Do you remember what happened? I'd be like, yeah, sure. You know, and then they'd go, do you? And they'd start recalling it. And yeah, maybe I don't remember all that, but you know, and as soon as somebody would refer to me as an alcoholic, or they would say, you have a problem with alcohol, man, you need to chill out. You're done. You're out of my life. I don't care who you are. You're done. You're gone. Yeah. If you ever call me out on that, because I had this pit bull grip on, this is what I need to live and survive. And I could not think or even function outside of that belief system. Tony Robbins talks about the belief systems that we have all the time. And I had a grip on that, and there was no way I was letting go. And if you got in my way, we are done. And so, you know, it took a lot of work to change that. And I think that I'm not unique. I think people have that. We all have our favorite chair that we sit down in front of the TV, or we all, you know what I mean? We have that and it's an unconscious thing sometimes. Like, try going to the opposite side of the room you normally sit down and watch TV, and try watching TV from there. It feels really uncomfortable. It's like, what the hell am I doing over here? I didn't pay for this part of the house, but you did.
I tried spending a night without you last night online, and I was very uncomfortable.
Oh, you've left the nest. You're flying. I love it. So anyway, hey, we can wrap it up if you guys.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little hungry. I love this time with us, and I love being with you guys. Thank you for inviting me aboard. Thank you.
Hey, Tommy, thank you.
Man.
Thank you for your. What is that?
My USB.
It's my pub mix.
Pub mix.
All right.
Tommy, once again, thank you for trusting me. Thank you for just saying yes. And like Bob and I do all the time, we start with yes, and then we ask the other one what it is we just agreed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But in that order, we say yes first, and then now tell me what I just said yes to. So thank you for knowing that I have a really good idea of how to mix people, because even though we can love milk and we can love margaritas, we got to be careful not to put milk in the margarita.
Amen.
So not every personality works well with every personality.
Right.
And I started thinking about, how do we design this cake mix? How do we put the ingredients in that are all complementary to one another? And this is what happens if you're just a wee bit more careful about the ingredients you put in your recipe. At the end of the day, life turns out to bake whatever it is we shove in the oven. There's no one in history that has ever set out to make brownies, and when they open the oven, magically it is turned into chicken fried steak. That doesn't happen. So basically, life cooks up what we're shoving into the oven. And I try to be very mindful when I'm working with Ken on who it is we might want to invite into the recipe, just so that the energies are complementary of one another. I love you guys. God bless. And we'll talk really, really soon. Bob, thank you. I love you dearly, man.
Yeah,
You guys,
love you too, brother.
I'm going to end the live stream. You guys hang on real quick. I want to say, Tommy, it was a great honor and pleasure meeting you. You are everything and more that Bob and Glenn have said about you. You're an amazing man. So thank you.
Well, I feel like I'm with family tonight. So thank you very much for making me a part of it.
You're awesome. And Bob, dude, I love you, man. You're awesome.
I love you too.
You're incredible.
You
so you want us to stay on and you'll close the live stream?
Yeah, I'm going to close it out. Thank you to everybody who shared this out. We still have 40 viewers on here. It's insane. Thank you, guys. You're all more amazing than we are. So thank you, guys. Have a great night. We'll see you guys soon.
Amen.